Welcome to our latest webinar, and thank you for joining us. My name is Phil. I'm the Engagement Manager here at the Society for the Environment. You'll no doubt be familiar with my voice from our previous webinars. If not, please go back and have a look through the webinars we've done already. Today, I will be quizzing our Head of Licensing, Registration and Standards, Geoff Atkins, about the pathway to become a Chartered Environmentalist or Registered Environmental Technician before concluding with a question and answer opportunity. You may well hear that we refer to the Chartered Environmentalist registration as CEnv and the Registered Environmental Technician registration as REnvTech. So firstly, a huge welcome to Geoff. Hello, Geoff.
Hello, Phil. Hello, everybody.
Geoff has also appeared a number of times on our webinars already. He's moving into the Seasoned Pro category now, so we've done quite a few now. Within the next 35 to 40 minutes or so, we'll be learning how you can showcase your environmental expertise with professional registration. For those who are watching this webinar as a recording, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me or Geoff at any time using the details on your screen at the moment. And that goes for the people who are watching live as well. A very brief overview of the Society for the Environment. So you're watching the Society for the Environment webinar. We hold a Royal Charter which was awarded in 2004. This allows us to hold the register for 2 professional registrations, the Chartered Environmentalist registration and the Registered Environmental Technician registration. So how all this works with our licensed professional bodies and how you join the community of nearly 7,500 registrants will be explained very soon during this webinar. So we're going to go straight into it. We're doing this as an interview style, so I'm going to be asking questions to Geoff, who is the expert on the topic, and hopefully that will then answer the majority of your questions. So to start off with, we're going to ask the first question, which is, who can become a CEnv or REnvTech, and who is it for?
Well, firstly, thanks, Phil, for calling me an expert. No pressure. Okay, so I suppose the easy answer to this is anybody can become a CEnv or REnvTech. There are no restrictions. There are requirements. There are a criteria that you need to meet. But anybody working to protect the environment from any demographics and hierarchy across all industries, including engineering, which is reflected in the organisations that we work with, and equally important, from anywhere in the world. We have many registrants from overseas, and so anybody can become one of our registrants. Probably a good idea to check out the CEnv and REnvTech profiles on the website. That will give you some sort of guidance on who is a good candidate to become a registrant.
Okay, so many people can become a Chartered Environmentalist or Registered Environmental Technician and take the opportunity to showcase their knowledge through professional registration. But we have both the Chartered Environmentalist and the Registered Environmental Technician registrations. So what's the difference?
That's what you need to that's the difference between the 2 registers. The main one being there's no requirement for an interview with the REnvTech. Yes, they're at different levels, but the main difference is there's no requirement for an interview.
Okay, so yes, there's different levels in terms of education requirements, or level of knowledge requirements and potential work-based experience. But yeah, the main thing is the interview there. So on to the next question. Could you provide an outline about what is required for somebody to become a CEnv or REnvTech?
Okay, so what is required for an individual to become a registrant? Well, you have to meet the application criteria, and there they are listed on the screen. You need to be a professionally qualified individual member of a licensed body, of one of our licensed bodies. Have that acquired level of knowledge, either master's level for CEnv or a level 3 qualification for REnvTech. You need to have sufficient relevant practical experience. You need to be willing to comply with our Code of Professional Conduct and the Code of Conduct of your licensed body, and undertake complete CPD, continuing professional development. So those are the application criteria that every applicant needs to meet.
Okay, so that was a very brief overview of the requirements to become a CEnv and REnvTech. We're going to go into a little bit more detail of how that works in a few moments' time. But you mentioned there the licensed bodies a couple of times. Who are they, and why are they important to the process?
It's always important when you talk to unmute the microphone, isn't it? Anyway, 24 professional bodies who are members of Society for the Environment and licensed to assess individuals for registration. So there's the 24, the logos and names of our 24 licensed bodies. And that's what they do. We license them to assess you, individuals, for registration. You can see that they cover a range of sectors. More information is available on the website about what they particular offer and their current prices for membership, what they charge. That might vary between them. And there are links on our website to each of their websites, which is where you would find out more information about those licensed bodies.
Okay, and if you are a member of a professional body that isn't listed there, then, and you want to become a chartered environmentalist or a registered environmental technician, and you want to do it through the professional body you're with at the moment, get in touch with us. They may want to become a licensed body. Who knows? Otherwise, there might be some different routes for you, or different. If you wanted to discuss the licensed bodies that we have, then please do get in touch. And the website on your screen at the moment is the web page to go to find out about the licensed bodies that we have at the moment and the prices and so on that Geoff just mentioned. So, Geoff, you've also mentioned the term master's level knowledge, which is something that many misunderstand when they look into becoming a chartered environmentalist, specifically for this question. Could you explain what this means? And that would be relevant to the level 3 requirement for the REnvTech as well.
Yes. Okay, so knowledge equivalent to master's level degree. Okay, so we don't stipulate that you need to be a chartered environmentalist, that you need a master's level degree. What you do need are relevant academic qualifications. Now, those levels that are acceptable are determined by your licensed body, and the relevance of those qualifications will be guided by the environmental and sustainable development content of your courses and their alignment to the CEnv or REnvTech competences in groups A and B of those competencies. It's something that is very flexible. If you've got a master's degree and it's in an environmental subject, then great. If you haven't, it doesn't mean that you can't become a chartered environmentalist. It just means that you might need to do something else to show that you are working at that master's level. But there are a couple of examples of CEnv, where if you've got a master's degree and 4 years work-based practice, great. But if you've got a foundation degree, it might be that a bit more work-based practice will compensate for that lesser academic achievement. And then with REnvTech, okay, so you might have A-levels and a couple of years work-based experience, great. But you might also just have GCSEs, but have completed an environmental apprenticeship, whichever combination should and could mean that your academic achievement is fine for registration. But these combinations are something you would discuss with your license body. It's something that they would discuss with you and agree. Well, you've got these qualifications. You need to do this, bring you up to either that level 3, or for REnvTech, or that master's level for CEnv. Something to discuss with your license body. But the important thing to note is that there is flexibility. There's no stipulation you've got to have. There is flexibility if you haven't.
So we've got a bit of background about what it is and the headline requirements to become. So the next step is how to actually apply. So with any luck, Geoff has some slides to tell us just that.
Yes. Okay, so route to registration. The professional review route is what it's called. The first thing, we've said it before and it needs to be said again, you need to be a full member of one of our license bodies. So you need to contact one of our license bodies. So if you go to the next screen, and we've seen that one before, but it's worth looking at again. Those are the 24 license bodies, one of which you need to be a full member of before you can apply to become a registrant. So these are the 24 professional bodies licensed to award Chartered Environmentalist, and these are the 3 that are also licensed to award Registered Environmental Technician. So you need to contact any of those. I mean, you may well be, or as you've already said, you may already be a member, but if you're not, have a look at our website. You'll find out details about their entry requirements, their membership requirements, and it's worth having a conversation with them about those membership requirements. So you've become a member, you are a member of one of our license bodies. You would then need to complete an application form. Now, the application process is in 2 parts, an application form and a written submission. Now, how that's weighted would depend on your license body. They might ask for a lot more information. One might ask for a lot of information in the application form. Other might ask for less, but want more in your written submission. So you will complete that application form prescribed by your license body, and in doing so demonstrate that you satisfy the eligibility, I can never say that word, the eligibility criteria for registration as CEnv or REnvTech. The application form will also include a commitment to CPD and to the Code of Professional Conduct. Nowadays, there will also be a signed agreement that your personal information can be stored relating to your application on a computer in compliance with the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, and used for contact purposes by Society for the Environment. Now, you will need to submit written evidence suitable and sufficient enough to satisfy your license body that you demonstrate achievement of each and all of the CEnv or REnvTech competencies. We'll talk about those a little bit later. Now, ordinarily, this will include examples of your professional work and will be cross-referenced to your CV and show the relevance of your qualifications and/or experience. All written evidence that you provide needs to be validated by at least 2 mentors, sponsors, or supervisors who confirm the authenticity of your application and that it fairly represents your ability and achievements. Ideally, the mentors, sponsors, or supervisors would be Chartered Environmentalists or REnvTech. Now, their relationship to you and the number of years they've known you should be specified, and your licensed body will satisfy itself that your application has been validated and that you are deemed suitable for registration as CEnv or REnvTech. If by any chance your licensed body thinks that your written application doesn't demonstrate you meet the criteria, they'll write to you giving the reasons, and hopefully you can reapply. Now, we mentioned the competencies a little while ago. Here are the headline competencies for both CEnv and REnvTech. Now, you must be able to demonstrate achievement of each and all competencies, of which these are the headlines. Now, A and B competencies will very likely be contextualized by your licensed body to reflect their sector or industry. C and D competencies, they're generic across all sectors and industries. So A and B, more specific to the environmental area that you're working in or the licensed body that you're a member of, but C and D tend to be uniform across the board. Okay, so elements of your application, there are 2, and we've already mentioned them: academic qualifications. And as we've already said, the relevant academic qualifications and their levels are determined by your licensed body. Now, relevance will be guided by the environmental and sustainable development content of the courses that you've done and how they're aligned to the A and B competencies. So that's academic and practical experience. Now, ordinarily, for CEnv, you will need at least the equivalent of 4 years full-time relevant work-based practice. It's 2 for REnvTech. This does not need to be continuous. But to be considered relevant, it must have direct and distinct environmental focus and/or context. Now, the relevant work-based practice may comprise paid employment, voluntary activity, academic workplace placements, or applied research, but it cannot just be pure academic study. Experience that develops general professional competencies, so the C and D, for example, general communication and presentation skills, research skills, project management skills. Now, they may be included at the discretion of your licensed body and in proportion to the CEnv REnvTech competencies. The nature of relevant work-based practice will reflect the domain of your individual licensed body, and it could vary across them. But it is a requirement that it should be environmental in nature and clearly reflect in the competencies. PRI, the professional review interview, or sometimes known as the peer review interview. It's an interview. If your licensed body is satisfied that your written application clearly demonstrates that you meet the eligibility criteria, and you have the competencies required for registration, it will invite you to attend a PRI, an interview. So your licensed body will appoint 2 chartered environmentalists to conduct the interview. They may invite a chartered environmentalist from another licensed body to be a member of the PRI panel. They may do. Now, an interview may be conducted using video conferencing or Skype, for example, or other facilities that enable the participants to see and hear each other. Now, this is providing that the licensed body has robust protocols in place for this process. Telephone interviews or interviews using any medium by which the participants cannot see each other are not allowed. In all cases, whether the interview is conducted remotely or not, your licensed body will need to satisfy themselves of your identity before the interview. The PRI can be held anywhere in the world and generally will last between 40 and 60 minutes. The idea is that the interview will give you an opportunity to fully demonstrate your knowledge, competence, and engagement, and give the interviewers an opportunity to get as much evidence as they need to satisfy them of your competence. The important thing to note is this is an interview that will be more like a conversation. It's about an opportunity for you to talk to your peers about your experience and etc. Now, this applies to Chartered Environmentalists. There is no requirement for an interview for REnvTech. That said, it is acceptable for a licensed body who feels the need to interview somebody applying for REnvTech, but that is rare. The PRI principally is something that happens for Chartered Environmentalists. We then move on to assessment and post-assessment. So the PRI panel, the assessors, have assessed you against each and all of the CEnv competencies against using the evidence, your written submission, and through the interview. They'll only recommend that you be registered as a Chartered Environmentalist or REnvTech if you have demonstrated that you have all the competencies satisfied to a satisfactory level. The assessment decision or the recommendation is recorded on an assessment sheet, and this is the record that you clearly demonstrate that you've met all the competencies. Now, post-assessment, this is when the recommendation by the assessors and the ratification by the relevant committee at your licensed body. And that would we would normally expect that to be within about 3 months, normally.
Well, that was the big section of the how to become a Chartered Environmentalist or Registered Environmental Technician. So now it's probably a good time to suggest, if you're watching as a recording, please send us an email with any questions from that particular section. So moving on to some more questions following that. We know about who can become a Chartered Environmentalist or Registered Environmental Technician. We have a good outline of how and a few more nuggets of information on top of that. So if we took the next step to become a registrant, whether it's a CEnv or an REnvTech, how would I continue as a registrant going forwards?
Well, what you need to do as a registrant is undertake and record CPD, continuing professional development, pay the annual renewal fee, meet or continue to meet the CEnv and your licensed body's code of professional conduct. And that's it. Carry on doing what you're doing. Keep up to date. Follow the code of conduct. And the other thing is, if you are an REnvTech, hopefully look to progress to become a Chartered Environmentalist.
Excellent. And who, in terms of the CPD and the annual fee, who does that go through?
Well, CPD can be events, can be activities created by and offered by your licensed body, by your professional body, or they might be things that you do in your work through your firm, through your company, or it might be stuff that you do in a voluntary capacity, acting as an assessor for your licensed body, maybe, for whatever. There's a wide variety of events and activities that can cover CPD and help keep you up to date. The annual fee, the fee that you pay, would be collected by your licensed body, and that's what they then pay on to Society for the Environment.
So nice and easy then. Going on to this next question. We're now in this scenario where I'm a registered environmental technician, and the question is probably a technicality, but worth a mention. Am I now a member of the Society for the Environment?
No. But no, you are a member of your professional body and a registrant with Society for the Environment. So there is our nice slide again. These are the 24 professional bodies that we license to assess and register individuals like you. When they have assessed you and registered you, you become a registrant. You'll always be a member of them, but you'll become a registrant, and that's your relationship with us.
And I guess for those who have expertise in whether it's a science-related discipline or engineering-related discipline, the similarities in terms of being a member of a licensed body and a registrant through the Society of the Environment is very, very similar to the Science Council and the Engineering Council, and how it works with those, generally speaking.
Yes, I would say that generally speaking, that's correct.
I say generally because there is a slight anomaly somewhere in there, but it's very, very similar. But that's probably not worth getting into. Okay, so there's a lot of information about how to become and why to become and what happens next and that kind of thing. But there's something that gets brought to our attention a few times is when people ask about CEnv in a day because they've seen it around. They want to know what it is. So, so taking a bit of a step back and looking at the route to become a chartered environmentalist specifically here. And so there is a CEnv in a day, and I'm going to.
Yeah, I think you know more about that than I.
I'll go for that.
Go for it.
So this is a program that's run by the Institution of Environmental Sciences, which is one of our licensed bodies. This isn't a specific plug for that, but it's just a question that comes up quite a lot, and people want to know the difference between CEnv in a day and what they would class as the normal route, but they are entirely the same in terms of what their requirements are. It is simply a condensed way in terms of time frames to go through the process. And the IES run a fantastic program that allows, there's preparation involved for you to bring essentially your draft submission along to the day, and during that day there are assessors on hand to looking at your application and run through any suggestions and so on. And then at the end of that day, they run through the interviews with you. So essentially, you've had that process during that day. Obviously, there's a lot of preparation involved, but hopefully that explains slightly what it is. But the requirements to become a chartered environmentalist are obviously exactly the same as through any other route. But the way that they do it is really good, and worth a look if you're in the sciences side of things, whether it's air quality or whatever it might be. So take a look at the IES website there for a bit more information about that. Once again, it's not a plug for their particular program, but we do get asked about it quite a lot, and it is worth having a look at how it works. It's a really good example. So hopefully that explains that. So that brings us to basically a conclusion of explaining how to become. But you may want to find out some more information, and there's plenty of places that you can go for that. So if you want to find out more about the actual registrations, so the Chartered Environmentalist or Registered Environmental Technician registrations, and find more detail on the competences, which is certainly worth doing if you're looking to apply, you're going to need to look at the competencies to be able to do that. Then please go to the web addresses that are on your screen at the moment. Once you've done that, it would certainly be worth talking to your licensed bodies and gaining the application forms from them, and that will also have the competencies on the application form as well. So that's worth a look. If you wanted to find out about who can become a CEnv or an REnvTech, then if you go to the web address that's just appeared on your screen again, that will have a load of profiles of Chartered Environmentalists currently. There aren't any REnvTech profiles on there at the moment. There's just Chartered Environmentalists for now. But if you wanted to see the broad range of professionals and the disciplines that they cover, if you're not sure whether you class as a Chartered Environmentalist or your eligibility for that, then please go and have a look at the profiles. They're really worth a look. And we've mentioned licensed bodies many times because they are vitally important. If you want to find out more about who the logos were that were on your screen a few times, then please go to the web address socenv.org.uk/professional bodies. There are the current costs from each licensed body to become a chartered environmentalist and a registered environmental technician. It also gives you the opportunity to figure out who those logos were of, because they're not all obvious at first glance if you've only seen them for a few seconds. So please have a look if your professional body is on there. A couple more places to go to. If you wanted to sign up to our newsletter, if you're interested in becoming a chartered environmentalist or registered environmental technician in the future, you don't think you're there yet, then it's good to keep in touch with what we're doing. And we send out newsletters once every 2 months, so we don't bombard you. But we do send other emails out with relevant events and opportunities as well. So if you go to the web address that's on your screen at the moment and sign up to those, feel free. You don't have to be a CEnv or REnvTech to get those, although they do get other emails as well, but that's another thing. Also, if you are a student or you're basically wanting to carve your path to become a chartered environmentalist or registered environmental technicians, we now have an employer champion program. And basically, if an organisation is a chartered environmentalist employer champion or a registered environmental technician employer champion, they put a lot of effort into developing and championing their environmental professionals that work for them. And they would be great employers to work for if you were looking to go down that path. They aren't the only ones to go for, but it's we've had a look into what they do, and we very much commend their efforts in terms of developing their environmental professionals. So just something that might be of interest to you to look at there, and you can see details of what they do and that kind of thing on the web addresses on your screen. So, Geoff, what happens now? if you are thinking of becoming a CEnv or an REnvTech, what do you think the next steps are?
I think I would encourage you to find out a little more. You've just been given some details of where you can find out more information. It is important to become a member of one of our licensed bodies, and you certainly are aware of who they are now. Get in touch with one of them, have a chat with their membership team about applying. First to become a member of them, and then to become one of our registrants. Complete that initial application process and take those first steps in becoming a Chartered Environmentalist or Registered Environmental Technician. It's a straightforward process. It's something that you should do.
Okay, and we have a bit of time now to ask some or answer some questions. You have some time to ask some questions. We have some time to answer some questions, hopefully. We have had a couple of questions in, and we'll go through those now. This question it has been answered throughout the webinar, really, which is: do you need a master's degree to qualify for CEnv? And that was a no. Essentially,
no, you don't.
Excellent. So you do require master's level knowledge, but that's less master's level knowledge, not a master's degree specifically. But if you do have a master's degree, that obviously helps. And this person says, I have a BSc honours degree and 11 years professional work experience on top of that. Would that qualify?
You could say probably. Quite likely, but that decision is something that your licensed body will be able to answer. Yeah, I mean, we ask for a minimum of 4 years for Chartered Environmentalist. If you've got 11, it sounds just on that, yeah, fine. You've got a degree, okay, so it's not a master's, but we've already said that extra experience that you've got, and if you are able to show that you're working and thinking at master's level, there's no reason to suppose that you wouldn't be able to apply. But as I said before, it is something that the licensed body will be able to talk to you about.
All within an environmental context, obviously.
Of course.
And we do have another question in here, which is, what is the average years of experience that you have seen from applicants? Which I believe this is referring to Chartered Environmentalists, but it could be REnvTechs as well. And we don't really have the data for that, do we?
No, it's a difficult. It's a good question, but it's a difficult one to answer, because what an average. Well, all we can really say is we ask for a minimum. We suggest a minimum of 4 years work experience for CEnv and 2 years for REnvTech. But we've just heard from somebody that's got 11 years experience, and there's probably not too much experience. There's probably too little experience. So you would probably need to have that 4 years as a minimum, but an average is impossible without, as you said before, without the data to actually give an answer to. Speak to your licensed body, and it might be that the work experience that you've got is relevant, completely relevant, and enough. That's something that they will be able to answer.
And to add to that, a bit more of a query from me, I guess, is in terms of the 4 years relevant work experience, I guess that would be 4 years of experience, yes, with a relevancy to the environment, but also would it need to be at a relevant level within the organisation, in terms of the strategic thinking and so on? That would have to be 4 years of that, rather than you finished
One,
university in 4 years.
one would imagine that to be showing that you're thinking and working at master's level, you would need to be working have a role that requires you to show that you are doing that, to act in that way. But that isn't necessarily the case. Other roles might meet the criteria just as well. But you're probably in a senior role within an organisation more likely to be able to meet the criteria and have that relevant experience. But it doesn't. No one's excluded. No one's with not so much experience. There's no maximum, but that minimum is probably what you should aim for. But in what role? You could argue that a variety of roles would be a good thing. So, as with everything, it's speak with your licensed body.
Yeah, we've got all sorts of examples of the roles that chartered environmentalists and registered environmental technicians hold. There's a CEO of a bank. There is water technicians and all sorts of things that slip my mind currently, but gives you an idea of the variety of people that are registered.
I think there is such a wide range of roles that people are working in as environmental professionals that it does make it difficult to be too specific. But it also means that lots of roles and lots of people in lots of different roles can apply. So it adds to the flexibility.
Which is all why we have licensed bodies who have their expertise within the fields that they represent.
Exactly.
They can provide the guidance specifically to your discipline and give you the guidance on where to go and what your experience means in terms of professional registration and so on. So if we don't get any more questions in the next 10 seconds or so, we will wrap up. Although I'll go through the wrapping up process, and if we've got any questions during that, we'll skip back. So bear with me. Okay, so let's say that's it from us today. So thank you very much for listening and taking part. If you're watching the recording on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel to gain notifications of new videos and hit the big thumbs up like button. That would be great. If you are watching on our website, please click on the YouTube button in the bottom right to get to the subscribe and like options. If you're watching live, which people we're speaking to right now, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, a huge thank you to Geoff for all of his knowledge today. Hopefully that's really useful for everyone listening. If you have any questions, please do send them through via email or drop us a line using our office number, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And other than that, we shall see you in the next webinar. Thank you very much for watching.